The movie begins with a fisherwoman named Barb living in a trailer. After her husband Carl's death, Barb sets out on a journey to fulfill his last request, to have his ashes scattered in Lake Hilda in northern Minnesota, where the two had their first date. Barb leaves her trailer and gets in her truck. On the road, she hears on the radio that the weather conditions are worsening and that people are advised to stay off the roads. But Barb is determined to reach the lake. As a severe snowstorm hits, she struggles to find her way. It's been a long time since she was last there. Eventually, she takes an unintended detour and ends up near a cabin. Outside, Barb sees a man in a camo jacket chopping wood, and she notices a gun inside his car. She startles him as he's wearing headphones, then apologizes, saying she's just out here to do a little fishing. Barb asks for directions to Lake Hilda. Before leaving, she notices blood on the snow and asks if he's okay. The man says it's from a deer. When Barb reaches the lake, she starts setting up. But suddenly, she sees a girl with her hands tied, being chased and shot at by that same man. Barb hides behind her truck and watches as the man captures the girl and takes her away at gunpoint. Barb gets her phone to call for help, but there is no signal. She jumps into her truck to leave, but it gets stuck in the snow. With no choice, she abandons it and heads back to the cabin on foot to investigate. When she sees the man drive off, Barb approaches the cabin and spots the girl tied up in the basement through a window. Moments later, the man returns with another car. A blonde woman dressed in purple steps out, and the two go inside. Barb overhears their conversation. The man says he kidnapped the girl outside a pharmacy and that no one saw him. The woman asks if he's given her any food, and he says no. He mentions stealing supplies from a hospital and tells the woman she should be thankful. Barb leaves a message on the basement window for the girl, promising to help her escape, but she forgets to remove it before fleeing into the woods. At the lake, Barb starts setting up her husband's old ice fishing shack. Meanwhile, at the cabin, the woman in purple is clearly unwell, bleeding heavily from her nose. Then she spots a red mitten in the snow and discovers the message on the basement window. She also notices fresh footprints leading into the woods. The woman confronts the man, and he tells her about the lady who suddenly appeared at the cabin asking for directions to the lake. She grabs her rifle and tells him they need to clean up his mess. Together, they head to the lake to find Barb. The armed couple arrives at the lake, where Barb has already set up her fishing camp. The man moves in closer to the shack, but Barb has cut a hole in the ice, and he plunges straight into the freezing water. From the forest, Barb watches everything through her binoculars. With the couple distracted, she seizes the opportunity to return to the cabin and rescue the girl. In the basement, Barb removes the tape from the girl's mouth and asks where the handcuff keys are, but the girl doesn't know. Unable to free her, Barb floods the cabin and soaks their belongings in the sink to force the couple to leave. But before she can get away, they return, and the woman in purple shoots Barb in the arm as she escapes. Meanwhile, the man, now suffering from hypothermia, is taken to the car, where the woman wraps him in blankets to warm him up. Barb flees back to her truck, but finds it sabotaged. The couple disabled it and stole some of her belongings. When she reaches the fishing shack, she spots the man's gun lying on the ice with only one bullet left. Back at the cabin, the couple wakes up in their car, panicking. The woman says they're running out of time. Her health is rapidly declining, and she's losing feeling in her skin. She orders the man to pull himself together, gather their supplies, and take everything down to the lake to prepare for their operation. They need to reach Little Fork by morning to meet a surgeon, and she can't afford to miss it. The man suggests doing the procedure in the cabin, but the woman refuses. She won't have the girl bleeding all over her grandmother's cabin. The lake is cleaner, and once they're done, there'll be no evidence left. She plans to torch the place and sink it beneath the ice. As they prepare to leave, the man realizes his gun is missing. The woman moves the girl from the basement to her car and heads out to hunt for Barb herself. Before leaving, she orders the man to stop pitying himself and get it done. She'll meet him at the lake once he's set everything up. At the lake, Barb watches from the forest as the man drags equipment across the ice and starts setting up a tent. This gives her a chance to sneak back to the cabin. But there she discovers the girl is gone. Upstairs, Barb finds a few first aid supplies and a pair of scissors. She disinfects her bullet wound and stitches it up using her fishing cord and hook. Searching for ammo, she only finds an empty box. Then Barb steps out of the cabin and spots a car parked nearby. Inside, she sees a packet of bullets. She tries the door, but it's frozen solid. She grabs a hammer lying in the snow and smashes the side window, managing to open the door from the inside. Her relief fades fast when she finds the bullet packet is empty. Then she notices a radio inside. She starts calling for help. Finally, a man's voice answers. Barb explains that two lunatics have kidnapped a girl, that she's wounded and they both need help. She gives him their location, a cabin near Lake Hilda. The man on the radio says he might be nearby, but before she can say more, Barb is yanked out of the car by the kidnapper. He swings a pipe at her, but misses. Barb strikes back, slamming the hammer into his foot. As he stumbles, she scrambles into the car, grabs the gun, and points it at him. The man begs her not to shoot. Barely able to speak through his shivering, he breaks down, saying his wife made him do everything. She's sick, he explains, and the kidnapped girl was chosen because of her past self-unaliving attempts. He swears he's not a bad person. He just wanted to help his wife survive. Barb asks where the girl is, but he doesn't know. He says he was on his way to the hospital. Then, from his pocket, he pulls out Barb's engagement ring, the one she thought she'd lost, and hands it to her. That's why Barb lets him drive to the nearest town, but tells him to go straight to the police, tell them everything, send help, and then get himself to the hospital. Before he leaves, he gives her all the bullets he has left. He drives off into the storm, but as he crawls down the icy road, his wife's truck suddenly appears, blocking his path. They stop, staring each other down before getting out. The woman is furious, demanding to know where he's going. He tells her he needs help. His foot is bleeding into the snow. She's completely unhinged, screaming that he can't abandon her now, not when she needs him the most. He finally snaps, telling her this has gone too far, that the whole thing is insane. She refuses to give up, insisting they can still make it to Little Fork. He asks if she can even trust this so-called doctor and tells her it's not too late to stop all of this and walk away. But her nose starts bleeding again, and she asks him if he wants her to just wait around and die. Then she raises her rifle and points it at him. Meanwhile, Barb is back at her truck by the lake, loading the remaining bullets in her gun. Thinking fast, she rigs the truck to explode to draw attention. At first, nothing happens, but then the truck blows up. The smoke draws in a car. Barb sees it and starts running towards it. Two men step out with guns drawn. She shouts that she's the one who called for help. They look at her skeptically, but she insists the wife still has the kidnapped girl, and they have to find her now. They take her gun for safety, pile into their car, and head straight for the cabin. As they reach the cabin, Barb spots the woman's truck parked out front, engine still running. The men hesitate, unsure how to approach, but they clearly don't grasp how dangerous this woman really is. Despite Barb's desperate warnings, they decide to just go talk to her and see what is going on. They get out of the car and call out, moving toward the truck. There's no response and no movement. One of them opens the driver's side door, only to find a man's corpse sitting in the passenger seat. Before he can even react, a gunshot rings out from the nearby shed. The woman in purple shoots him, then fires 2 more shots, killing the second man. Barb scrambles to free her gun while the woman opens fire on her car. Bullets tear through the metal as Barb finally gets her weapon, rolls out, and takes cover beneath the vehicle. She fires back, hitting the woman in the leg. The woman collapses, but not for long. She manages to get her rifle again and continues shooting at Barb. Barb makes a run for one of the dead men's rifles, but more gunfire stops her cold. She looks around and sees that the kidnapper is dead and no help is coming. So she ducks behind the cabin for cover, but the woman shoots at the rooftop, sending it crashing down on Barb, and she blacks out. When Barb wakes up, she's in the basement, handcuffed to a pipe. The woman in purple has captured her. Across from her sits the girl she's been trying to save. Her name is Leah. Barb asks if Leah knows these people. She tells her that she's seen the woman before, back at the hospital, after her last unaliving attempt. But Leah insists she doesn't want to die. Barb tries to lift her spirits with a story, but falls flat. Still, she refuses to give up. When they hear the woman leave the cabin, Barb starts working to free herself. That's when she realizes the box with her husband's ashes is missing. She spots it on a nearby shelf, but can't reach it. She takes off her shoe and uses it to knock the box down, but the shoe flies off across the room. She asks Leah for hers and finally manages to get the box. Using the handle, she pries at the bolts securing the pipe. It takes all her strength, but the pipe finally gives way. She's free. Barb hands one of the bolts to Leah as a weapon, grabs the box, stuffs it into her jumpsuit, and helps Leah with her shoes. Then she forces open the basement side door, but standing right outside is the woman in purple. Barb slams the door and backs away. Moments later, the woman storms in, gun raised, and forces both Barb and Leah to march with her toward the lake. Arriving at a makeshift medical tent set up in the middle of the frozen lake, Barb and Leah finally learn the woman's plan. She intends to take Leah's liver and travel to another town to meet a surgeon who can do the transplantation. Barb tells her she's sorry she's dying, but this isn't going to work. The woman doesn't care. She's too far gone. She forces Barb to unpack the medical supplies, then orders her to tie Leah to the table. Barb pleads with her, offering to take Leah's place instead. The woman refuses, says Barb is too old. Every word only makes her angrier. Barb has no choice but to follow her orders. She ties Leah down, but deliberately leaves the tape loose, and Leah still has the bolt hidden in her hand. Then the woman fires a shot straight into Barb's chest. She drops to the ground. The woman turns back to Leah, cuts open her blouse, and marks the spot where she'll make an incision. She turned around to clean the tools, sterilizing herself for the surgery, but behind her, Barb is standing up. She's not dead yet. Barb lunges, tackling the woman to the ground. They struggle viciously. Barb grabs a pair of scissors and stabs her. The woman manages to reach her rifle, but in the chaos, a lantern shatters and the tent catches fire. Flames spread fast. The two women wrestle for the rifle and burst outside onto the ice. Barb kicks the weapon away, sending it skidding across the frozen surface. They both crawl for it. The woman grabs Barb's leg, pulling her back. She finally reaches the rifle and fires, but there are no bullets. Furious, she smashes Barb with the butt of the gun. Barb's metal box falls out of her jacket. The woman picks it up and sees the bullet she fired earlier lodged inside the ashes. That box had saved Barb's life. Barb begs for it back. The woman eventually hands it over, but then forces Barb backward across the ice toward the open hole she'd cut earlier. Meanwhile, Leah has freed herself with the bolt and escapes the burning tent. She looks across the ice. Barb is standing at the edge of the hole, and the woman is still holding her rifle. Just as the woman is about to push her in, Barb snaps the open handcuffs around them both and dives backward, dragging them both into the freezing water. As they sink beneath the ice, Barb scatters her husband's ashes into the lake. Leah watches in shock, then finds an old photograph of Barb and her husband from their first date there at Lake Hilda. The end. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time.